Hello and welcome back to the Midweek Remedy with me, James Thacker. I hope you're having a fantastic week so far. I certainly am. Um, those who are watching on YouTube will see I'm in my training kit, so I'm recording this just before I go to rugby training. Had our first rugby game back on Saturday, and it was a good one. It was so good to be back out there. Genuinely, I can't express to you how fantastic it was out. Being back out there with the boys on Saturday, we went up to Bury St Edmunds, and although it was a little bit different because we took two squads up there and we had one squad playing the first half and one squad playing the second half. So I played in the second half. We only ended up playing two halves of 15 minutes. I would literally just take any rugby at the minute. It doesn't matter what shape or format it comes in. There were no scrums because of COVID reasons. And the game was just a bit quicker as a result because you have to tap and go from a free kick instead of scrum. So lots of up and down. And yeah, in general, really good. We ended up winning the game, although that's not the most important thing at this stage. It's just literally about getting back and playing any rugby at all. So that was good. And I thought I had an all right game, although still lots of things to work on at this point. I haven't played a game since March last year, so obviously going to be a little bit rusty straight off the bat. But climbed into it, and it was really, really good to be back out there, like I said. Then on Saturday, straight away beelined it to the city to see my good friend Ayula in the city, to have a bit of, just a few pints and a bit of dinner. It was nice to catch up with him. Now, the plan was to go and have some dinner at the pub that I'd booked for 7:15. However, I made the fatal error of not checking when they were serving food until, which meant that I had to book another place for 9:30. Then cue the torrential downpour of rain. Fantastic. And then the restaurant called me up and they said, "Are you sure you want to come? Because you have to sit outside and it's really wet. People are getting very wet. We're not sure if we're going to still be open." I said, "Oh, well, we'll chance it. We'll see how it goes. And, maybe we'll come if it dies down a bit later." Anyway, it stopped raining. Got there, 9:30, was shut. I was like, bugger. What do I do? So, because it was obviously my plan to kind of make, and I wanted to come up with another solution. I was like, "Mate, I'm sorry, but we're just going to have to get a takeaway somewhere. I don't even know where we're going to eat it." But I was like, we just need to get any food in our bodies. And I hadn't eaten since like lunch, since like 12 o'clock. So I was absolutely Hank Marvin by this stage. So we went to this Chinese place, and obviously I'm doing this vegetarian diet. So very scarce in terms of things that are actually on that menu that I could eat. But anyway, so we got our Chinese, went outside, still raining. And I was like, the only place that had cover was a bus stop. So me and Ayula, late on Saturday night, were eating Chinese at a bus stop. And you know what? I bloody loved it. Always a pleasure. But yeah, it's weird what kind of stupid scenarios that we find ourselves in these COVID times. But that was my Saturday. Sunday, did a bit of coaching and then relaxed with the family, which was lovely. Anyway, in other news this week, Joe Rogan has gone on record as saying, and this has kind of been big news coming out over the last day or so, that the woke nation, or I suppose the woke generation, is going to get to such a point where white straight men will be silenced on their opinion because they don't want to hear from that specific demographic. And when I say they, that's a very generalist term. It's people, I think, who are looking to proactively be offended, who describe themselves as woke and social activists, and they're trying to literally find a political movement out of every single scenario. Now, when he says that white people are going to be silenced, that's not something that I've experienced on a societal level. I think there are some subsets of society where my opinion, and I've felt this, where my opinion has felt less valid in recent times, and especially over the last year. Now, this has probably come about, and I'm sure that this has come about from heightened racial tension, especially in the West, in America, with the Black Lives Matters movement, with everything that's been happening with the Asian population, with Donald Trump coming out and saying that the COVID pandemic has been down to Asian people calling it kung flu and things like that, and then that's led to upticks in racial hate, everything that's going on in marginalization and the killing of thousands of Asian people, subsects of cultures out in the East. And I think there's been a lot of realization, reflection as to how society is, and I think a lot of people have now finally had their eyes open to inequalities in society, whether that be from a social level or our political systems, industry, everything. It has especially in the West and in the UK and in the USA, it has an underlying systematic racism at the heart of it. And as a result, we are trying to then propel marginalized societies' voices up to a platform where they're heard, where they're more represented, and that's absolutely a fantastic thing to do. However, there is a subsect of society that is taking that message, and then instead of encouraging everyone to have a voice, encouraging everyone to have an opportunity, they are now kind of shutting down opinions of people that historically have benefited from systematic racism. Now, that for me is not the right way to go. We need everyone to have an opinion, everyone to have a voice, but everyone needs to appreciate history, what's come before, and needs to have an understanding as to how this affects you now. So when Joe Rogan says that it's going to get to a point where white people aren't going to be able to talk, white straight men are not going to be able to voice an opinion, even to the point where they're not going to be able to go outside, I don't agree with that, because I feel like that's not going to happen. And although subsects of our society may make you feel like your opinion is less validated, it really isn't going to get to that point. And not that I would like to take on such a behemoth of a podcast in Joe Rogan, but he has arguably the biggest platform to speak in the entire world. So, and he's been able to get there through brilliance, but also the ability to attract fantastic guests and his just ability to hold captivating conversations. But so I don't agree with his point that we won't be allowed to speak, or there's going to be like this running out of town of white straight men, because it's just not how we need to progress in society. One thing I do agree with what he said is that we just need to be kinder to each other, and we need to stop this cancel culture, like I talked about with Andy on the podcast this weekend. It needs to stop, because nothing moves forward with just silencing people and cancelling and eradicating the areas for growth and learning and mistakes to be made. And then we can have a look at those mistakes, analyse, and then move forward. We need different sides of the opinion to challenge each other, because without that, there is no growth. There's no moving forward. If everyone's just in agreement the whole time, then I promise you'll be surprised at how quickly things will stagnate when everyone's on the same playing field. If there isn't any room for different thought, and obviously when we're talking about different thought, it's progressive different rather than different. We're still holding beliefs that we had that were completely regressive back from like 100 years ago. There need to be different and progressive thoughts that were putting society in the best place possible going forward. And that means giving everyone equal opportunity. It means, helping out marginalized communities. It means, pushing that to the forefront, but also educating people, helping people. Don't just shut them down. Don't cancel people just because they're from a specific background, because for me, that's never acceptable. So I wanted to cover that because I think it's a really important point. And there's going to be so much noise made about it, and people are going to get absolutely rip into Joe Rogan because they'll say that that's insensitive to what people are trying to achieve, and he's misinterpreting the message. And he has his opinion on it. I think he operates in a world as well where he's in a public platform, and anything you say to a wide public audience is going to be massively scrutinized. And when you've got all the eyes of the world on you as one of the most popular podcast creators in the world, then of course you're going to have a larger majority and quite noisy people trying to take you down, trying to cancel you because of a differing opinion. But it's a problem with that subsection of society who are noisier, that do kind of over-represent themselves in terms of how they're heard, especially on social media. And I think in this situation he's not correct in that, because I think it's not going to get to the point where white straight men are just not going to be allowed a voice and we're going to be shut down and silenced. But he does kind of raise an important point around cancel culture, around um, how people's opinions are respected, but we should think about that from a complete societal level, and we need to hear each other out more. Another point I wanted to raise was that some people are deliberating at the moment as to whether, as the economy is getting up and going, whether we choose the more local, sustainable option whenever we're going to the shops, whenever we're going to the pub or a restaurant, to support a local business where the prices may be a bit more expensive than you are just supporting a chain, something like a Wetherspoons, where the pints are notoriously a lot cheaper because of economies of scale and also how they buy. They're a large chain of pubs in the UK, and they do everything on the cheap and cheerful. And I hold question marks over the practices and sustainability of that kind of model and how good that is for society. But someone raised a good point in that we have been waiting for so long to just get back out there doing anything. And for some people, Wetherspoons and the pints that they serve at Wetherspoons and just the experience of being able to go out and socialise and go to the pub with other people is so important that I think at the moment the sustainability, the supporting local businesses might just need to hold on, because there are going to be people that want to do that, but there are people that aren't able to do that. It's just simply not applicable to them at the moment, because they can only afford to pay £2.50, £3 for a pint, rather than £5 or £6 that you're finding at some gastro bistro, but family owned, local owned pub. So I think at the minute it's just important to gain some perspective around that, because as much as a society, I think we're going well. I want to believe that we're going in the right way, or at least we as a population know widely what we need to do to get better, in terms of the environment, in terms of helping each other, boosting the economy. It's all about thinking locally. It's about supporting local businesses. It's about not wanting to import things from other countries the entire time that causes more pollution, that uses single-use plastics, that we've got the similar produce here, but we choose to import from other countries because of labour costs, because of economies of scale, etc. In time, I hope that happens, and I hope it becomes affordable, and I hope it becomes more accessible for everyone. But at this present moment in time, just as the kind of country's getting off its arse a little bit because of the absolute arse kicking we've had over the last 15 months, I think we need that just bedding in process. And if someone wants to go to a Wetherspoons, then they shouldn't necessarily be shunned for that, because people need to get out and socialise. You need to go and see your friends. You need to go out in that social setting again, and it's real important to do that. So that's my 2 pence worth on what is quite an active week. I know that there's also some news coming out about the Indian variant of COVID, whether the 21st of June will in fact stay as the date where everything just goes back open again. Now, I think Boris Johnson said that those chances are close to nil, which isn't great, especially as I've got a stag do close to that time, and I just really hope that we're able to do everything that we've got planned. But all we can do is stay positive, react to the news as it's coming out, and hopefully this Indian variant doesn't get any worse. But that's it for me. That was your quick midweek remedy. I hope that was something of interest to you. I definitely urge you to go read some of the articles on what Joe Rogan said, and also just do some kind of investigative work around how we can shop locally, but also affordably, and get out there, support local businesses, go enjoy yourself. We're allowed to go eat and drink back indoors in the UK this week, which is absolutely fantastic because the weather is so poo, and we're at the back end of May. What is going on? I hate it. I can't stand it. But at least the ground is soft for when we land from our tackles on the rugby pitch. One silver lining. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling now. Go enjoy the rest of your day. Pleasure speaking to you. Be seeing you. Have a good one.